man there?
Yes, sir.
You remember his name being Steve Sherbert?
Yes.
Okay. And you remember communicating with him after December of 2006 by email?
I don't know if it was email. I know that we had exchanged phone calls.
You don't remember saying it was by email?
I don't.
Okay. In any case, you communicated with him by phone?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And your intent was to set him up with your friend Michelle Moore?
He had asked me to. It wasn't my intent.
Okay. Were you helping him with that request of Mr. Sherbert?
I had agreed to have the two of them meet with me out for lunch.
Okay. And in fact, yourself and Ms. Moore and Mr. Sherbert met at the Jacksons in Greeley in January 2007. Is that correct?
Yes, we did.
And the three of you had lunch.
Yes.
You had drinks.
Yes.
And you were at Jackson's for quite a while.
Yes, we were.
And you recall telling Mr. Sherbert about the affair that you had with Ignacio Garraus.
I did.
Including telling him about the birth of your child Christian, right?
I did.
Okay. And you weren't embarrassed to share these intimate details with somebody that you'd known for this short period of time. Is that right?
We had all been drinking that day.
Okay. You weren't embarrassed to share these details, were you?
Actually, I kind of was embarrassed.
But you did it anyway.
We were talking about it, yes.
Okay. Well, did he know about it before you told him?
No.
Okay.
No,
So
the
you're the
discussion
one-
was brought up.
Okay. And so you're the one who told him that you had an affair with Ignacio Garraus and that you had a child named Christian.
Right. Michelle and I were talking about it, and Steve was there and wanted to hear more, so I explained.
You remember him asking you, how could you lead this double life?
No, I don't.
You don't remember reading the reports about it?
No. Actually, I never saw that one.
You remember telling him that your answer was, because I'm a really good liar?
No, I don't.
You don't remember that?
I don't.
You remember later when the three of you went to your home?
Yes.
Okay.
That's where the conversation took place. It wasn't at the bar.
It wasn't at Jackson's?
No.
So he'd be incorrect about that?
He would be.
Okay. You remember that your husband, Ken Nelson, was there?
Ken had come home after that conversation. We were watching a movie when Ken came home.
Okay, so you had this conversation, you talked about your affair, but not in Ken's presence. Is that right?
That's correct.
You remember telling Steve Sherbert that you couldn't stand to have sex with Ken?
Probably.
And this was in January of 2007, correct?
I believe so.
That's
The
what you said a few
beginning
minutes ago, right?
Yeah, it was the beginning of 2007.
You testified yesterday that you spoke to Heather Garraus on the phone one time. Is that right?
That's correct.
No other times?
No.
Okay. And that was back in 2004. Is that right?
Yes, it was.
Is that your testimony yesterday?
Yes, in
Is that-
October.
Okay. And that was correct?
Yes, it was.
And you told her at that time that there was nothing going on between you and Ignacio.
Yes, I did.
Was that the truth?
No, it wasn't.
So the only time you talked to Heather Garraus, you lied to her. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
You talked yesterday a little bit about driving by the Garraus family home. Do you recall that?
That I talked about it?
Yesterday, you testified in the
Okay.
stand. Do you
Mhm.
recall that?
Yes.
And that this was a frequent thing that you would do?
Right, it was on my way home when I lived in the condo.
In fact, yesterday you said it was a shortcut, right?
It was.
In fact, the Garraus family home is on the cul-de-sac. Isn't that right?
It is.
It's not visible from 20th Street. Is that right?
No, you have to jog through, and I would go up 16th Street to 47th Avenue. That was the little shortcut that I had.
So the shortcut you had would take you into a cul-de-sac.
No, I didn't drive into the cul-de-sac. You could see their house from the neighboring street. We never actually drove right past it. But you could see that his truck was in the driveway.
You said we. Who are you talking about?
Me and the kids, because I would always pick them up from school.
Sure. You testified yesterday that you have fired handguns before. Is that right?
I have.
And you and your husband, Ken Nelson, at one point enjoyed shooting handguns together. Is that right?
Yeah, that was a long time ago before the kids were born.
And you testified that your husband, Ken Nelson, bought you a Glock 27. Isn't that right?
He did.
Okay. And at some point, you sold it to some guy standing outside Mr. Money. You recall that?
I did.
And this Mr. Money was over in Loveland.
That's correct.
And you don't know his name.
I don't know his name.
You didn't get a receipt.
Of course not.
Okay. You knew at that time, by selling to this guy, there was going to be no pawn record, right?
Right.
I mean, you didn't go into the pawn shop in Loveland.
No, but that was my intentions when I went there.
Your intent was to go in the pawn shop in Loveland because you didn't want to pawn it in Weld County, right?
That's correct.
Because you would be embarrassed if someone knew that you were pawning something in Weld County versus in Larimer County.
That's correct.
And so in this case, the way you ended up doing it, there was no record whatsoever, correct?
No, there wasn't.
Not in Larimer County or Weld County.
No.
So you had no idea this person whose name you don't know, who you didn't give a receipt, if they're a convicted felon or not.
I didn't.
And that of course, you didn't run a background check.
I didn't. We had a very brief conversation.
Okay. So you don't know if that person turned around the next day and robbed a bank with it.
I don't, sir.
Okay. Shot somebody with it.
I have no idea.
Robbed somebody with it.
No.
Your Honor, this is speculation.
And you testified that your husband, Ken Nelson, purchased that gun for you, right?
I believe so, yes. I never did.
And he was a sheriff's deputy at the time.
He was.
And he pawned guns in Weld County, right?
He did.
And presumably, if he's pawned a gun in Weld County, he's going to show up on a pawn sheet, right?
It would.
So which do you believe would be more embarrassing, to have your name in a pawn or have your husband, who's a deputy, listed as the last owner of a gun used in a robbery or shooting?
Your Honor, that's assuming facts that are not in evidence. It's argumentative. It's an improper question.
You did pawn a rifle and a pistol in Greeley, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was in preparation for your trip to Las Vegas?
That's correct.
A couple days after Heather Garraus' murder?
I believe it would have been, yes.
Right, the 25th?
The 25th?
You didn't pawn these guns to some unknown guy in the street, right?
No, I took him to Garden City.
And Garden City is contiguous with Greeley, right?
That's correct.
And it's in Weld County.
It is.
So it would show up on the Weld County pawn receipts, right?
Right, I explained that yesterday.
So I apologize for making you explain again. Let's talk about Old Chicago's for a minute or two. You said yesterday that you knew you were pregnant at the time of that party. Is that right?
I did.
Despite the fact that you knew you were pregnant, you were drinking heavily that day. Is that right?
I was.
And you were jealous of Michelle Bush, excuse me. You were angry with her.
I wasn't jealous of Michelle Bush.
You weren't jealous of the fact that she left the bar with your boyfriend?
No, I actually thought it was an intentional act as a dig towards me.
Okay. By Michelle Bush or by
Yes.
Ignacio Garraus?
Oh, no, by Michelle Bush.
Okay. And so you weren't jealous, and yet you went over to try and hit her, to attack her. Is that right?
Actually, that's not what I said. When I initially went into the bar, I do remember saying that I just wanted to talk to her.
Okay.
I did approach her, though.
When you say approach her, did you approach her with a smile on your face?
Oh, I'm sure not.
Okay.
I was angry.
Were you angry?
Yes.
Were you coming at her aggressively?
That I don't remember. I think that it was stated by others.
Okay.
That it
And you
appeared that I
disagree?
was.
Well, if Sergeant Black said that two people had to restrain you, do you disagree with that?
No.
Okay. But you just wanted to talk to her.
That's what I told her at the time, that I wanted to talk to her about it.
So is that how you normally talk to people? You come at them aggressively? People have to restrain you?
No, actually, what initially happened was I saw her in there, and I kind of yelled at her, and immediately somebody restrained me. And then that's when I said, I just want to talk to her.
So if somebody else testified differently, their version is incorrect. Is that right?
Everybody has their own version of different events.
Okay, so if somebody else testified differently, their version is incorrect.
I didn't say that. Everybody has their own
Please
opinion of
answer that
different
question.
events. Their version would not be incorrect, no.
So their version is correct and yours is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And during this time where you were coming after Michelle Bush, you were married to Ken Nelson, correct?
Yes, I was.
Let's talk a little bit about your friend Michelle Moore. You testified yesterday that the two of you had a sexual relationship.
We did.
Okay. How often would the two of you have sex?
Not very often.
Okay.
It was probably 3 times a month.
Okay. Do you recall talking to your sister, Deb Smith, on February 25th of 2007?
I am sure I did.
Okay. You talked to her frequently when you were in jail after the murder, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And do you recall telling her that you had never had a sexual relationship with Michelle Moore on February 25th?
Yes.
Okay. You remember another phone call to Deb Smith on June 12th of 2007?
I'd have to hear it.
Okay. Have you listened to any of the phone calls in this case?
No, I haven't.
Not a one. You've been told about them.
I have been told about quite a few of them.
Okay. Read transcripts about them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're familiar with the contents of many of the phone calls that you made.
A lot of them.
Okay. And on June 12, 2007, did you say, "We never had sexual contact" when talking about Michelle Moore?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, did you tell the truth to your sister?
No, I didn't.
In that same conversation, did you tell your sister that me and Ken's marriage was a huge freaking sham too?
I would have to listen to the tape.
Okay. Do you think the tape says something else?
I don't know.
Okay. Did you read that transcript?
I did not.
Michelle Moore never had an affair with Ignacio Garraus, right?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Let's talk about your husband's truck for a minute or two here. Do you remember yesterday talking about getting into an argument with Ken about how messy his truck was?
Yes, I do.
And the two of you made an effort to clean the truck out.
Yes.
Recall that?
Mm-hmm.
And you said that, I can't remember, did you say you found the mask or Ken found the mask?
No, Ken had originally picked it up.
Okay. And I believe you said he asked you what he should do with it. Is that right?
He asked me if I wanted him to throw it away, and I just said, just leave it in here.
So you just want it left in the truck.
Yeah.
And he did that.
I'm assuming that's where it had been.
Okay. And you were there when this conversation took place, right?
Right. I had never seen it back in the house and put it back in the truck, so I'm assuming he did leave it in there.
And this was in January 2007.
I don't know when it was. Whenever Ken testified that he was looking for that magazine.
Whenever he testified.
Mhm.
Okay. Was this going to be your permanent storage place with the mask in the truck?
I don't know. I don't even really know what my intentions were.
Or were you going to keep it there until next Halloween?
Probably.
It was important to get the other things out of the truck. Is that right?
Trash.
You testified yesterday that you often drove Ken's truck. It wasn't your favorite, but you'd done it often.
Yeah.
And for work, Ken used his task force vehicle, the Jeep Cherokee, right?
Yes, sir.
So when he's at work all day, the truck's at home all day,
Yes.
unless you're out driving.
Right.
And you had a key to his truck, right?
I did.
So anything in his truck you had access to.
Yes, sir.
Let me talk to you about December 16th, the night at Cactus Canyon.
Okay.
You recall testifying yesterday that after Ig left the bar, you were upset with him for leaving you in a rude fashion, or worse than that.
Right.
And you were over it at that point.
Right.
I think you said something like you were done with the drama. Is that right?
That's what I had told him.
Okay, and that's what you testified to yesterday, correct?
Yes.
So at that point, you were going to be with Ken, he was going to be with Heather.
Yes.
You were done with the drama.
Yes.
So were you done with the drama when you sent the psycho bitch email to Heather?
Those were all digs towards Ig.
Okay. So were you done with the drama when you sent that?
Apparently not.
Were you done with the drama when you sent the anytime, anywhere bitch email?
That was before that.
Were you done with the drama when you sent the anytime, anywhere bitch email?
Apparently not.
Now, Heather Garraus never had sex with your husband, correct?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Heather Garraus never had sex with your girlfriend, Michelle Moore, correct?
I don't believe so.
I asked you some questions about reviewing phone calls. You said you didn't actually get to review any of the audio phone calls, right?
I didn't hear any, no.
Okay. You got to read some transcripts.
I did.
Okay. You've been in jail for 13 months approximately, is that
I
right?
have.
Okay. And during that time, you've been able to review police reports.
When my attorneys would come over and give them to me, yes.
Okay. And in fact, on the jail phone calls, you talk about reviewing police reports and reading
Yes.
them,
Uh-huh.
right?
Right.
So you've been able to read the witness statements of everybody that's testified here, right?
Right. In different segments, yes.
Okay. Over that 13 months.
Right.
Not all at one time. You didn't sit down and
No.
read 5,000 pages at once, right?
No.
You've been able to look at photographs of evidence, correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And in fact, yesterday you testified about looking at the photograph of, what was it, the truck? Something. Maybe it was the shoes. It was the shoes.
Oh,
that
yes,
right?
yes.
And before you took the stand yesterday, you were also able to watch all these people come up and testify.
I did.
What about the interview you had with Detective Tharp? Were you able to watch that?
No, the first time I saw it was in the courtroom.
So you saw that prior to your testimony.
Yes.
But before that, you'd read the reports that he had written about that.
I believe so.
I mean, pretty important point here, right? Your interview. You read that, right?
It's been a long year. But yes, I believe I have.
Okay, fair enough. One of the witnesses you heard testify was CBI agent Yvonne Woods, who testified about DNA. Do you recall her testimony?
I do.
Okay, and did you recall her saying that DNA is unique to every person except for identical twin?
I did hear her say that.
And you don't have an identical twin, is that correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. On January 23rd, you talked about, in the evening, going and asking Dylan to babysit his brother and sister down the basement, right?
Yes.
And you were going to pay him a little bit of money so he could do
Right.
that, so you could take a break and take care of your headache.
Yes.
And you went into your master bedroom, right?
Yes.
And you have a master bath in there as well.
Yes.
Okay. And when you were in there, you testified that the acoustics aren't very good. If somebody is out in the hallway, knocking on the door, you might not be able to hear them, right?
No.
Okay. In fact, you testified that Ken Nelson, if he came home and knocked on the door or called out your name, you never heard him.
I didn't hear him.
Okay.
He said that he knocked, and I didn't hear him.
Okay. So you never heard him.
No, I didn't.
And that wouldn't be unusual to you, not being able to hear somebody knocking on the bedroom door if you were in the bathroom.
No, it wouldn't.
Okay, and I believe you talked about a fan that was in the bathroom that could make noise.
Right in the water closet.
Okay. And so if you're, at the time that you locked yourself in there, your 10-month-old child was down in the basement with no parental supervision, is that right?
That's correct.
So if you were needed, you may not be able to hear the person who needs you. Is that right?
That is correct.
yesterday you testified and you talked about being on diet pills at this time. Is that right?
Yes,
And you told this jury that you had an accident.
I did.
Okay. You didn't tell that to Detective Tharp when you talked to him on January 23rd, the night of the murder, did you?
He didn't ask.
Did you tell him that?
No.
You were talking about the events surrounding this, correct?
Right, he asked for my day.
Okay. And you didn't include that as a part of your day?
No, that's kind of embarrassing.
It was a little embarrassing.
It is.
You did talk about how the diet pills were making you pee all the time, right?
Yeah.
You recall during the videotaped interview, Detective Tharp asking you if you knew who the victim was.
I'm not sure.
Okay, you don't recall that? You recall saying, I don't know.
I don't.
You recall earlier in that conversation when Detective Tharp said to you, we all know the history, you said, oh, I know, it doesn't look good.
Right.
And it was after that that you said you didn't know who the victim was. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Okay. The video talks for itself, right?
Yeah, I don't know. We could replay it.
Yeah. You talked about from December 16th that your desire was for Ignacio Garraus to stay with his wife, Heather, to reconcile their marriage, correct?
Yes.
Take a look at these behind you. Was this a part of your effort to help them reconcile?
No, that was just a dig. That was just a dig towards the egg.
You said you sent that one to Heather, right?
I did. I knew Egg would hear about it.
Heather'd never done anything to you.
No.
And when you sent this email calling her vanilla and fat, was that an attempt to have the Garrauses reconcile?
That yesterday I testified to that I was just drunk that night.
So was that an attempt to have the Garrauses reconcile?
I didn't have any thought as to what it really was. I was drunk.
Okay. You testified twice now that you were drunk. When you sent this email, you talked about wanting them to reconcile. Was this part of your efforts to help them reconcile? Was this part of being a friend that you testified about?
I don't think I was looking at it like that, to help or hurt. It was just to Egg.
It wasn't help or hurt. Vanilla and fat, is that right? It wasn't help or hurt.
No, and there's kind of a history behind that whole vanilla and fat thing.
And when you told in this email, Ignacio Garraus, that every day was a living hell, and you were dead inside, was your intent to help them reconcile their marriage?
No, actually, that statement to me meant that I no longer cared for Egg. That I was done with it.
I have no other questions. Redirect.
Mr. Lammons asked you about pawning, or not pawning, but selling the Glock 27.
Yes.
Did you sell that Glock 27 before or after December 16th when or December, I guess, 18th, when Mr. Garraus called you and said, this affair is over with, we're not having anything to do with each other anymore?
Oh, no, several months before. Ig and I had actually had a conversation about me pawning it the night of.
Did you acquire the mask before or after Mr. Garraus called you on the 18th and said this affair is off?
Way before.
Testified that several times in your relationship with Mr. Garraus, he has broken up with you,
Yes.
and you have been upset.
Yes.
Has drama taken place between you and Mr. Garraus and you and Heather Garraus?
Yes.
Did you ever have the desire to kill Heather Garraus over any of this?
Never.
Did you ever have the desire to shoot Heather Garraus in the head over
Never.
this?
Never.
No further questions?